How do you feel the summer's gone?
It's been busy, lots going on and off the field, but no, we feel we've crammed a lot of intense work into the boys with a new conditioner who's had a massive impact for us. We've sort of changed over that department, and I think probably come together and integrated to our rugby programme, aligned very closely. So that's really positive for us. And rugby-wise, as we know, it's never easy with boys coming back at different stages, but you get to a point, especially over the last couple of weeks, where you see the bit of cohesion coming through, and sporadically in the friendlies, admittedly, a little bit of shape and structure and glimpses of what we want to go into the season with.
Got a lot of young players, don't you?
Yeah, clearly that's we've lost a little bit of firepower and experience on the one hand, but a lot of the players we're talking about have been around the group for a fair while now. A lot of boys have re-signed here and shown a commitment to the Ospreys, with young talent coming through from the 20s. So it's evolving, it's fresh, it's vibrant, and hopefully we can put some exciting work together.
How difficult, Gruff, will it be to replace all that experience?
It will be tough. We're not going to hide the fact that we're looking forward to that challenge. We've put a lot of faith in terms of the system we've had over the last few years, the investment we've put into our youth programme, and the players that have already shown their ability to play Pro 12 rugby on a consistent basis. In terms of people like Sam Lewis, Lloyd Pearce. We've seen some real highlights over the last couple of years. But we've got to go the next step. We've actually got to try and take this group to a team to stay competitive, but also try and, as we said at the end of last year, try and achieve some notable victories.
You're being widely written off. One newspaper suggested you could finish as low as 10th. How do you react to that?
I suppose it hurts on one level, because the perception is the Ospreys may have eroded, but we've just got to control what we can in terms of the work we do, the faith we have in the players we've got here. There's still some world-class talent here who work damn hard day in, day out, and all of us, coaching staff, driving the players, have got a massive amount of pride in what we do, whether that's the player coming in on day one, or Alan Wynne as an inspirational leader, followed by people like Dan Biggar and Tiprick. We stand for a lot of good people in this region, who support us within our setup, but also for the hardcore support that we want to reward and stay and producing a brand of rugby that they can empathise with.
I'm assuming that you don't buy the idea that an era's ended for the Ospreys.
Working day in, day out in it, no, because I'm always probably working in the here and now, but also knowing the way we're looking around our plan in 6-12 months hence. So, I can only just control the group I work with and what's around the corner in terms of our planning to do so. We knew we were going to come to this juncture with a lot of those players. We've planned for it in most cases. The side that played the majority of the rugby last year is what we're putting on the park over the next few weeks. So we've got some consistency to what we do, and I'm sure the rugby will reflect that.
What about your goals for the season?
We don't set any in terms of being out there. We just try and be the best we can week in, week out. Steve drives the group hard as a head coach, and we've got real good working processes we follow. We're not going to say we're going to achieve X, Y and Z. It's just about being the best you can every week. The next challenge for us is starting the season well, in terms of a home challenge, and an exciting one against Treviso coming up Friday, and then we take it from there. Yes, we clearly do our planning in terms of the competitions and linked to the conditioning work I've spoke about around an annual calendar and certain competitions, but it is just about enjoying what you do, thrive on what you do, and seeing people step up.
Yeah, presumably you obviously do want to make that top four, don't you? Or at least qualify for Europe as well.
Yeah, definitely. We're used to being a more than competitive side in the Pro 12, and there's a lot of players still within this room who won it just over a couple of years ago. So we've got that experience as players and coaches, and likewise, as I said, the Johnny coming in conditioning wise has been part of a winning culture. So that's helped drive certain things on the field. But off it, we're probably looking at certain levels of leadership and standards that we probably won't be as accepting of an away defeat in Zebra as we were come the end of last year. We are now preparing to win each and every week. Whether we're good enough to, who knows? I can't control the actual result, but I can just keep driving, what we do as a group of coaches and players and be the best we can be.
Are we expecting big things from this season?
Again, I'm loath to single out individuals. There's a whole heap of players have had a real good summer and a summer that's actually put a bit of sustained work into them, which is often unusual in the pro game with international commitments. But people coming back from injury are looking in good shape. People like your Webb, your Walker, Dan Bigger always comes back in imperious form. Likewise, someone like Alan Wynne, will always be your 8, 9 out of 10 man and keeps, showing remarkable qualities as a leader for me. And some of the young boys who showed up at the end of last year, we fell up short. But people coming into the mix like Nicky Smith, Dan Baker, they give a lot of hope for the future. Not just in 2-3 years' time if we can keep this group together, but also, as I said, achieve some consistent results this year.
Alan Wynn's leadership is going to be really important to you this year.
It is, yeah. He's a remarkable man, and he keeps developing as a player, which I think is really important for him. We keep pushing him as a player, but also just seeing him around this group in the summer. Today is a public example of that. He's driving the Treviso group who are coming at us hammer and tongs in a bone-on-bone session to really actually make our life as uncomfortable as possible. And you see people like Rory Thornton, Ollie Cracknell, some of those boys coming into the mix, Nicky Thomas, learning in around the work Alan Wynne is doing. It can only rub off on some of those young fellas.
Is he looking to start and be involved against Treviso?
No.
Would he not be involved at all?
No.
Dan Bigger, would he be involved?
Yeah, he's involved against Saracens, so he's likely to be involved.
So when will Alan Wynne sort of make his comeback, if you like?
It'll be pretty early in the first block. We spoke before about managing the guy. He's got a big year. We obviously want the best for us regionally, but we are trying to work for his own career. There's a World Cup around the corner. He hates talk like that, but we do want to have a partnership around him being involved in the decision making, but also trying to help him to be the best he can be over a longer period of time as well. So we don't want to rush him back.
First block obviously goes on for 4 or 5 matches, perhaps even more. Will he miss the first 3 or 4 then?
We take it on a game-by-game basis in terms of working with, again, the conditioners, in terms of what he's done. We felt he needed another week, just being part of the non-selected group this week to top up a couple of things. We might look at it over the weekend and see if he would fit the Dragons game. I think obviously rugby-wise he would tick many boxes, but there's lots of things to juggle in the air around the wider arguments about game time and his training needs as well.
Yeah. Last question really from me. Justin, how is he progressing after his injury?
And nicely, he's been involved around the group for a lot of the summer, really. He's been looking around the unit sessions, backs and forwards, in terms of the skills work we've been doing. So he's done a lot of non-contact work. He just is still in a modified phase, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we can push him in terms of bone-on-bone.
So when is he going to be available in October?
No, we'd hope for before that. Again, perhaps around the latter part of this first block. I'd certainly like to see him play League Rugby before we go into the Champions Cup.
Sam Lewis, how long is he going to go?
With that MCL, I think it's about an 8 to 10 weeks.
That's a goal, then I take it.
Yeah, it is. As I talk about consistent players. And he's been outstanding for us for 12 months, 18 months since coming into the senior environment. Defensively, you won't get a better man in terms of putting people on the floor and getting over the ball. He's also developed his attacking game over the last 12 months. So yeah, it does, adds a little bit of a blow, but as in all these things, it creates a different opportunity for, another lively back 5 forward.
Who are you going to use then?
We've got options. Young Lloyd Evans has come in and made a good impression on us this summer. Whether against the Treviso side, which may have lost a bit of its own firepower itself, whether he's the right man for that, I'm not so sure in terms of stepping up to league action. But we've got players like James King has played there internationally. Even Tyler Arjon is such a lively back 5 player. We think he could do a comfortable job.
I think King was going at pace against
Yeah, if you look at his speed times, he would certainly be up there athletically. Just sometimes the intricacies of the position in terms of not over chasing the ball sometimes, and where you have to read the game. That would perhaps be different to him, but as I said, you can cover that with some different combinations in terms of the back, in terms of the back row around him, and the way you want to play the game.
Griff, have you finished your recruitment for this summer?
It's a 12-month process, recruitment, in terms of looking at players, and so it's always ongoing. Especially now as a coach, perhaps agreements being made politically, so you'd hope at some point that we can start looking around in different avenues around routes I certainly haven't looked at as a coach since I've come back to the Ospreys, in terms of perhaps the sort of talent idea has been strong around looking at who's available for value for money, and we'll keep doing that. It's been a strength of ours the last year or so, but we'll be open to other avenues as well.
Has anyone come to you and said, all being well, we're going to be able to release, I don't know, $500,000 or...
No, I think it's too soon for that, and that would go via the board to Andrew Hoare and then to Steve, and then we would start to... We've got an idea again where we want to go in the future in terms of recruitment, but as I said, first things first has been, even though I say it's about a 12-month process, we've actually been trying to bed down new recruits, which we're quite pleased with this summer as well. People like Josh Matavesi and Dan Evans, and someone like Ryan as well, Sam Parry. So there's enough to bed in with this group, but yeah, we'll still look on others as well.
You probably suffered more than anyone by the delay. If this deal had been signed 12 months ago, we'd be looking at a very different Ospreys in the field almost. Is that a bit frustrating?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, there's probably different avenues we went down in terms of players we could have got on, on X amount, for example, to keep or to recruit. But yeah, we've had to stall for a while, so that's been incredibly frustrating. And sometimes you earmark certain players that may be available, but again, you can't make a commitment, and naturally players are going to look after what's best for them immediately, really.
Good about Adam Jones potentially for nothing. Is that a bit frustrating as well when you look back on it?
It's just, first of all, just a relief that the whole political saga has come to a close, really. But as I said, we, almost in the eye of the storm, you just get on with it, and it's the swirl around you. It's unfortunate in many respects, but as I said, we had planned to a certain degree without it as well, in terms of people like Jarvis, Dimitri's coming back to health, and young professionals like Daniel Suter, Nicky Thomas. It'll just create opportunities for others.
Nicky Thomas, what are you expected from him this year? Is he ready for league action?
I think that would be a stretch, looking at him physically, and I'm not being unkind. He is just, he's come into the fold and he's training with our senior group, but he's got certain targets he's got to meet, because even though I think he's proficient around certain parts of his game, in terms of some of the challenges you come up with, certainly around the Pro 12, it would be a big ask to step up immediately. But it's our job to look at the raw attributes that are there, and try and give him the best opportunity to come into the mix, and he's got to take some ownership of his work as well. Bridgend Daft boy. Yeah, been with Bridgend for a couple of years.
How old is he, Griff?
He's about 22, 23. He's not a young one. He's like a late developer. But Premiership boys, he's been outstanding.
So this would be a league debut for him?
Yeah, I'd say it would be a tough ask for him to...
If he was used.
Yeah, but he's been training in the senior group, and we'd be pretty comfortable. Played LV last year, made a couple of stunning line breaks against Sale in the wind down in the brewery field, and has got some real athletic potential. Certainly he's a great man to have around in a physical challenge, and in many ways the Treviso challenge could suit him, but often it's around learning different roles around the set piece, and even I've spoke about a couple of people who are back five forwards who could do it. They're probably more comfortable historically doing it, whereas Joe was probably fit more the 8-6 role for us, and does just certain parameters of his game really well.
What do you expect from Treviso?
They could be a dangerous outfit. I think looking at their summer games, they're trying to develop their brand of rugby, and they've changed remarkably, really, in that they've had a lot of physical firepower up front. You know, but they've lost a hefty chunk of good experienced international forwards, but they still retain the core of quality international backs. You look at people like Campagnaro, you know, lit up the Millennium Stadium when Wales played Italy earlier in the year. Scarby is regarded really well in the pro game as a tough, durable 12. And they've signed a couple of live wires at 10 with Joe Carlisle and Sam Christie from Waikato. So there's a bit of energy about what they're trying to do. And even though they might be integrating slowly in terms of their summer work, it will make them dangerous. You know, without forgetting, they still had one of the best driving games in the league over the last 4 years. You know, and the signs are that'll stay there with Marius, you know, coaching as he's done before.